Hey there, I'm Mike Dunn with Gaming Trend, and we're here at Gen Con 2023 at the Renegade booth, and I'm talking to Jordan.
That's me.
And
Renegade.
He's going to tell us about some of the new games that Renegade is doing. Now, they aren't exactly new, though. They are new printings, new versions of classic games that some of which I played a long time ago, and some of you might have played a long time ago. But it will hit all new audiences. So let's start with Acquire. Jordan,
Let's do it.
Tell me a little bit about Acquire, for those people who don't know Acquire.
Sure.
And then tell us what you guys are adding to the mix.
Sure. So Acquire essentially is a game of real estate strategy. You play a real estate mogul. You're going to be operating through mergers and different trade deals and acquisitions. You're going to be navigating different strategic ways to invest in certain properties, placing hotels, building out chains, managing through acquisitions, and waiting for just the right moment to be acquired, or hence the name, to grow your wealth and become the greatest real estate mogul of them all. So this is a really fun game. It's easy to comprehend too. It's not something that's going to take you forever to understand. And it's a blast to play. And again, this is a high strategy game, so it's great for a game night with some friends. Have a couple drinks while you're playing. This is the perfect game for that kind of an environment. And with our edition here, we have obviously given it a bit of a facelift here. We've updated the box art, which I love. It's one of my favorite box arts for this year. And also we've introduced some new things, such as a tycoon mode. So in addition to the classic gameplay, you can now play a tycoon mode, which offers a different variety to the experience you can get with this game. Takes out some things that you'll typically experience and adds in some new twists. It makes it really fun and adds to the replayability, so you can experience this again and again. And the other thing that we've done here is just quality of life improvements. So, and this is a theme that we follow with all of our sort of classic games that we're touching through these licensing deals, is we don't want to change a classic. It's a classic for a reason. It's a great game. It has a dedicated and loyal fan base, and we want to keep that fun element that made it a classic. But what we do want to do is take in community feedback, because there is a ton of it, and change things that the community wants changed, because at the end of the day, it's their game. So that's what we've done with this title and the other titles we're going to go and look at. We work with community ambassadors on each and everything that we've worked on in these strategy titles, and they help us figure out what needs to change, such as with this one, we changed simple things like legibility on tiles so you can read them easier. It really is small things like that.
Taking a lot of the modern sensibilities of game design and applying them to a classic like Acquire.
Exactly. Modernizing, not changing, because the game itself is great as it stands, but like you said, modernizing and making it a better, overall more accessible experience.
Awesome. Now, is this it looks like you guys have this for sale here. Is this available just at Gen Con right now, or?
This is available everywhere right now. It's $50, so you can get it on our web store. You can pick it up here at Gen Con, or in your friendly local game store.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, let's go check out the next game.
Let's do it.
Okay, so Jordan, up next we've got a game that I've played. I played a lot back in like the late '80s, early '90s with my buddies at the table. But since that time, there's been a few different versions and editions of it.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about Renegade's version of Axis and Allies.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of as we already went over, again with this one, we did not want to change what works. We only wanted to improve upon things that needed improvement based on community feedback. So that's exactly what we did. We did things like changing different box sizes so they're not quite so cumbersome on your shelf.
Yeah, this is a much smaller box size for sure.
Right, yes, and it fits everything that was in there, and even a little more. Like one of the other bits of community feedback was, I think it was German infantry. There wasn't quite enough, so our producers added some more of those. We also revised the rule book and just made it a little bit more easy to comprehend. Again, modernizing and just kind of bringing things up to speed to today's typical presentation for games. But yeah, the bottom line with all this stuff is don't change what works, and we followed that same theme here. Right now with Axis and Allies, we have 1941, 1942 second edition, and then we've got 1940 Not here, but somewhere. 1940 Pacific and
There it is.
there it is.
Oh, this one's bigger.
Pacific. Yeah, this is a big one. That's Pacific, and is Europe down there somewhere?
Europe 1940. There we go.
Yep, and there's Europe. So those were our 4 initial reprints, as we called them, because they were games that had pre-existed. More recently, Axis and Allies 1914 came out, so that was another reprint. Same thing here, only updated and added where it was needed. Didn't change any of the things that worked, and that's over there. There's a big stack of 1914 right over there.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And then the last thing that I can update on is an upcoming Axis and Allies game. So back a few months back when we acquired this license, we put out a call to action in the community and said, you tell us what the next Axis and Allies game that we should make is. Because again, our biggest thing here at Renegade is community. We want to make these games for the people who are playing them. It seems obvious, but it's something that we really try to drive our efforts by. So that was the first thing we did is said, what game do you want? We put out 4 options. North Africa is the one that got voted on, so that's the winner, and it's in production now, so that's being made. Aside from that, Guadalcanal, we did a second vote a couple months later for what's the next reprint you want, and Guadalcanal took the win in that one.
Awesome. So for those of us that are old school Axis and Allies players, like the original where it was just Axis and Allies, which one of these would be kind of corresponding to that?
Point?
Yeah.
1942.
1942.
That's what I'd recommend. Yeah, this is what we're using for our World Championship here at Gen Con. This is the staple, in my opinion. I see this as the classic of the classics. So this is a great jumping off point. 1914 is also another great starting point. It's a fan-loved version, so either one of these and you can't go wrong.
Yeah. And yeah, of course, that's the original Larry Harris game.
That's
I can
right.
see it right there. Larry Harris also did War Room a few years ago, which is kind of billed as like a spiritual successor to that game.
And speaking of Larry Harris, we've also been working with him on these reprints.
Excellent.
Yes,
That was where I was going with that. Yeah.
Yeah, we wanted to, get his thoughts and make sure that the direction we went in is something that he would go in himself, and just make sure that the man that was behind all this greatness is on board. So
Excellent. Excellent. Hey there. We're looking at the next game that Renegade is reprinting. Another classic. This one is near and dear to my heart. Diplomacy is one of probably the game that got me into this hobby in the first place. It is. I'll let Jordan talk about it, but it is a fantastic game. Jordan, tell us about this version of Diplomacy. I know this has been reprinted so many times over the years, but what makes Renegade's version of Diplomacy unique?
Sure. Well, and first of all, I hear that all the time. Diplomacy is the game that got me into gaming because it is such a classic staple. There's a huge history behind it. And speaking of, we're at Gen Con right now, there's a long history of Diplomacy at Gen Con. It's been around for a while. There's a top board that's been played in all of the championship events here for many, many years, going on decades now. Thomas Haver is the holder of that very precious artifact, and he only brings it out for those events each year, and he's going to have it this year. A great history behind this game. The Renegade version, again, a similar theme to what I've just been mentioning. We took a lot of community feedback on this one. We did not want to change the game because the game is perfect. It's amazing. The rule set is just out of this world. I had this conversation with Thomas Haver a little bit ago that this is a board game that almost blurs the lines between board game and role-playing game, because you step into the persona of the country that you're playing. And when you approach it that way, it provides such an interesting experience and makes it really memorable and makes every single experience thereafter unique, because something different can happen each time.
And some people would also consider this a game that often blurs the line between friendship and enemies,
Yes.
right? Friends and enemies.
Yes.
It is
known-
a very backstabby game.
Yes.
If you haven't played it before, I do recommend it highly. It's an experience like no other.
Yeah.
And it's been refined so much over the years. Now, what are you guys doing special with it?
Yeah, so what we've done is based on community feedback, there were certain things that wasn't so hot about the last edition, such as plastic pieces for your the placements that you put on the map. We swapped those out with wooden meeples. That was also a recommendation of Thomas Haver, who we've been working with closely. Thomas Haver is the current world champion for diplomacy.
Nice.
Yeah, so he knows his stuff.
Right.
He's very integrated with the community. He's been amazing. He's running our events here at the show right now. So that's one of them. Aside from that, just other similar minor quality of life upgrades, just upgrading components to be a little bit more modern, upgrading the rulebook to be a little bit more comprehensive and easier to understand, because it's really not a hard game to dive into. But the rules, the way they're presented can affect that quite a bit. So Thomas Haver, again, helped us out with a quick start rule set, which is included in the rule book. It's a 1-page, and it gets you going really quick. So that has been a massive upgrade to this, very well received by the community. And of course, the box art, we also upgraded that. Totally
The
refreshed.
map looks great.
Yes.
Everything, the presentation and the table presence, I think, is going to be fantastic. And I have one of the old blue box copies with the wooden pieces, and I'm definitely looking forward to getting my hands on this to see how they compare.
Yeah.
But awesome. All right, we got one more game to look at in this renaissance of old games, old wonderful games that Renegade is making, and that is Robo Rally. Let's go take a look.
Let's do it.
All right, so this is another mega classic. If you've been gaming for any amount of time, you know Robo Rally. Now this is another game that's been reprinted by many companies over the years. Jordan, tell us what Renegade has done with Robo Rally.
Absolutely. So yeah, as you can see here, the box art is totally refreshed. We went with a new sort of modern design here. I love the way that the characters are represented. This is one of my favorite boxes of the year, kind of tied with Acquire for me. Another thing, each robot that comes in the box is fully painted, so that's pretty cool. You can actually see them on the back right here a little bit, maybe if you can see that from there. And we've also upgraded some of the board design, taking away some of the more frustrating layouts and revising those, again, all based on community feedback. And another thing we've done that isn't quite so involved with the core game is we are reproducing a lot of the expansions and building upon them. So a lot of the expansions coming this year, you'll see, will feature older maps that are from the classic era, but also have a new map included. So you get a little bit of both worlds.
Nice. And again, all of these are available now, right?
All of them are available now. You can either pre-order it from the web store. Obviously, they're here at Gen Con now. These guys are going fast. They're very popular because they're great games. And again, that's not something that we take credit for because these are classic staples. They've been around. They have a dedicated fan base. And what we've done with them is just try our best to make them a little bit better in ways that we can, take in community feedback, and make their game a little bit better for them.
Yeah, if there's one thing that really stood out to me about previous versions of Robo Rally is that you could really tell what era of gaming that particular edition was printed in, and just the box art, the presentation, and especially the fully painted robots really brings it into the now. From what I can tell. Awesome. Well, that's fantastic. Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you very much. This was fun.
Yeah.